Welcome to Raging Moderates. I'm Jessica Tarlov, and today I'm joined by Ben Smith, editor-in-chief of Semafor and host of the Mixed Signals podcast. Ben, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jess.
Yeah, pleasure. Well, I think it'll be a pleasure. I'm sure it'll be a pleasure.
We can decide afterward.
Yeah, we'll take a vote. Enormous media story today, huge shakeup. Bari Weiss landing the top job at CBS News. Paramount just bought her outlet, The Free Press, for about $150 million and is putting her in charge of one of the most established news brands in the country. You've been following this story forevermore, or since The Free Press came into creation. What do you think it says about the moment, where mainstream media is headed? Like, what are all your feelings?
My feelings? I don't think I have that many feelings, but certainly the...
Okay. I'm an emotional person, so I led with that. But
I think it's obviously a story about the owners of big media outlets. In this case, David Ellison, whose dad is Larry Ellison, one of the richest people in the world. But similarly, Jeff Bezos at the Washington Post, Patrick Soon-Shiong at the LA Times, where you have rich guys who have chosen to buy media for reasons that aren't economic, deciding they'd like it to reflect their views more and basically moving it to the right. And also at times deciding that media that's too critical of Donald Trump could get in the way of their other corporate interests. And so that's the big picture here. I think you can there's a totally legitimate argument to be had about, well, like, are they right? Did it get too left wing? Should it be moved to the right? I think that's a legitimate argument, but that is the sort of the big picture. And they're doing it by acquiring Bari Weiss's pretty phenomenally successful Substack project, which began with her and her wife, Nellie Bowles, and a bunch of other voices on Substack that she edited, very carefully. And, build a business that reportedly has about $15 million a year in revenue. I mean, those of us who have started and are working at new media companies, I mean, no, everybody likes the idea that your company ought to be worth 10 times your revenue.
It sounds great to me.
But that's a big, big sum for this business and reflects, how urgently David Ellison wanted to put Bari Weiss in charge of the editorial at CBS News.
Do you think that he couldn't have gotten her for 100? I mean, I'm throwing out another number because I'm seeing all this analysis of like the subscriber base who are paying, about $120 a year, $10 a month, and I'm seeing the views that she's getting on a lot of these videos, which are, pale in comparison to what big influencers online are bringing in or other media outlets. And so, how do you explain that? Just this is what they wanted?
Yeah, this isn't a commercial deal.
Okay.
I mean, but I think this is the thing. He really wanted her, and so she was able to drive a really hard bargain, and I think she did. I mean, I do think, though, what you get at about the views, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily about how many views you have on social media, but CBS News has this massive crisis that it hasn't been relevant for decades, missed the whole cable thing, no cable news channel, and then also missed the digital thing, basically. Like there is a CBS streaming platform, but they never quite figured it out. And those aren't problems that are going to be solved by moving to the left or to the right. I mean, maybe they think that you could get far enough to the right to start competing against Fox News and take some audience share. But like the problems of a broadcast television network that hasn't figured it out by 2025 are like really, really urgent and desperate. And I think, they are already sliding into the territory of, wait, why do we produce the evening news? Like maybe nobody would notice if they stopped. What about the morning news? Maybe stop with that too. Seems like people watch CBS Sunday Morning, and that's a really popular show. And as long as that generation of people who watch it is alive, it'll stay on the air. But I think the default right now is that this is just a product that's just going to go away. And so I think the challenge for Bari and for Tom Zebrowski and for Ellison is much more just how do you save this enterprise if you even want to?
Well, it also, is not lost upon me or anyone that Donald Trump has been very angry at CBS News, and they have, bent the knee and paid him, what was it, $16 million was the CBS settlement. And he, I would assume, likes Bari Weiss a lot and would see this as going in a good direction for a network that he thinks is unfair to him.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea if he likes Bari Weiss, and she's not been a particular booster or fan of his. And
I guess from my perch within a conservative or right-leaning network is that this does push CBS in a more, first of all, pro-Israel direction, which I want to get your take on that, because I think that must have been part of David Ellison's calculation, that Bari is such an open I don't booster might be the wrong word, but definitely on the pro-Israel side of this and has been very open about that and why she left the New York Times in the first place in 2020. So I know that that's something that's deeply connected to her identity in the media world.
Yeah, I mean, again, I really like. I have no idea if Donald Trump has heard of the free press. Like Donald Trump is like definitely like reading the New York Post and CBS News, um, but I don't know if he's a subscriber. You know, and I
Yeah, I
think,
don't know.
and actually, I would say that because there's this obvious shadow over this whole deal of basically like, did they do this to get regulatory approval from the Trump administration? Basically, was that part of it? That it was some kind of, fundamentally corrupt bargain, that there's going to be a huge burden on them to show that they're independent from the administration. Like, I don't know if they'll try to meet that or not, but I think a lot of people will be watching to say like, like, can they be critical of the White House? Can they be adversarial? And then on the question of Israel, sure, that's one of the big issues. Bari, it's something she cares a ton about. It's something she's written about for her whole career. It's something David Ellison also cares a lot about. And in fact, in the sort of rolling train wreck that has been CBS News's internal politics for many, many years, one of the elements of the dissatisfaction of the ownership with the newsroom is that they felt that they were being too favorable to the Palestinian side.
Yeah, well, definitely that blow up with Ta-Nehisi Coates. When was that like a year and a half ago on the morning show?
Yeah, that was one of them. And I think one of CBS's challenges is that, like, I don't know, how often does it leak that your boss is upset with something that you produce? Like, not that often. And somehow at CBS, the owners are constantly throwing tantrums about the coverage that then immediately leak. And that was
Yeah.
one of them. I suspect, and I honestly like wouldn't be shocked if there's many more of those to come.
Yeah, it says it's a leaky time across the board for sure. I wanted to go back to, you mentioned CBS Sunday Morning, which is very successful, and 60 Minutes is also very successful. I think last week, what did it have? 10 million. Actually sat down and watched it on time, which rarely happens. Do you have a sense for what role Bari Weiss would play with those kind of marquee products versus the general digital operation and what to do with the weekday mornings and the evening news?
I mean, I think my impression is that they want her to steer the direction of the whole news operation. And I don't know, would you call 60 Minutes successful? Like, I think if NFL football games appeared before your podcast, a lot of people would watch them. And it is
That's
like,
what we're doing wrong.
yeah, and it is obviously a really famous brand that people have worked on for many, many years and often will do, really high quality stuff or get big interviews. But this is a news organization that's been in like deep crisis and sort of really dramatic decline for many, many years. And so I think that like nobody thinks, or maybe there are people at CBS who think like, oh, let's just kind of keep the thing going as we have. But it's the Titanic after it hit the iceberg already. And so I don't know. I mean, I suspect you're going to see a bunch of really dramatic change.
Okay. Last question. How are free press subscribers, or like what's the mood amongst the people who have followed Bari from the New York Times over to this experiment that she has turned into a media company worth $150 million, feeling about her going back in within legacy media?
I haven't surveyed them, but anecdotally, I think subscribers feel really connected to her personally, and and I think her core contention at the very start was that the sort of mainstream media in 2020 had lost its mind and gotten really super woke and left wing, and that she was there to lead them back to objectivity. And I think critics always said, well, wait, she's a conservative opinion writer. She was never. If you ever thought the New York Times was fair and centrist, she was always to the right of that. But I think for a lot of her audience, I think, really like believe the first thing, that like they liked this institutions like the New York Times and CBS, that they thought they'd lost their mind and gotten really left wing, but they weren't ready to like go watch Fox News, and they thought that was crazy too. And so they were looking for some heterodox alternative, and that's what Bari provided. So I think people I've talked to are thrilled. They see it as a
Yeah.
sort of reclaiming the mainstream media.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of that. And she is much beloved amongst Fox people, even for when critical of Trump, but feeling like there's an alternative out there and that she was someone who platformed, especially during the COVID era, voices that were alternative to the mainstream, talking about the implications for kids and what lockdowns were doing and things like that. So,
going to be a great story.
It's an amazing media story, perfect for you. And I hope that you'll come back and follow up with us at some point. It was great to have you.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.